In a year of momentous happenings, 1976 was a year of theatrical events, Olympics, and landmarks for the international traveller. In London, the theatre set was celebrating a record 10,000 performances of Agatha Christie's famous play, The Mousetrap. Like Buckingham Palace and the Tower, The Mousetrap had become a London landmark. With a record 4 million tickets sold over 25 years, it was often referred to as that homely little thriller. The play's first leading man, Richard Attenborough, had spoken earlier of the secret of the play's success.
I mean, there's any reason why it should stop. It's playing to absolute capacity. And the most important thing of all is that audiences enjoy the evening. I mean, they really have a marvellous time. And indeed, I won't put it in the same class as St. Paul's, but certainly the Americans decide that it's the thing to do if they come to London, to go and see the Mousetrap.
1976 was a year of momentous happenings in sport. The staging of the Olympic Games nearly bankrupted the Canadian city of Montreal. The city's taxi drivers, who were losing business to the free transport organised for over 6,000 journalists and Olympic officials, felt that they were not getting a fair deal and made their feelings known with dramatic effect. The streets of Montreal came to a virtual standstill when the drivers demanded justice for taxis. In Formula One, world champion driver Niki Lauda survived a near-fatal crash in the West German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, after attempting to fight his way back into the running for the year's World Drivers' Championship. Lauda's car had burst into flames and he had been trapped in the wreckage. He suffered severe burns to his head and inhaled hot, toxic gases that damaged his lungs. Lauda was rushed to hospital, where a priest administered the last rites.
So the priest came and I expected him that he will speak with me and tell me some, that I should try hard to survive and all that. Instead, he didn't say anything. He just put a little cross on my shoulder and left again.
1976 was a year of momentous happenings for aircraft travel. In May, British and French Concorde airliners began their faster-than-sound passenger service between Europe and North America, cutting the flying time between the two continents by more than half. The Air France and British Airways planes made perfect landings, minutes apart, at Dulles International Airport in Washington. One had flown from Paris, the other from London, both trips taking 3 hours and 45 minutes. Thousands of spectators were on hand to welcome the two planes, and a cheer went up as they touched down. Only a handful of protesters, mainly environmentalists, were there, but there were no incidents. Concorde flights to the US were booked up for several months ahead, despite the fact that the fare cost more than $1,440 return, 20% more than the normal first-class airfare of the time. While air travel was entering a new era of supersonic travel, the Arab-Israeli conflict was the cause of yet another airline hijacking. After a harrying week of terror, the hijacked passengers and crew of Air France Flight 139 were freed by a crack Israeli commando squad from the Entebbe airport terminal in Uganda. Although the raid was condemned by some, the United States Secretary of State Henry Kissinger said his country had no second thoughts about its approval of the Israeli action.
We believe that the issue of terrorism is one that the international community must address. It is intolerable that innocent people are being used as hostages for the political aims of particular groups. It is a violation of the Geneva Convention and of all basic principles of humanity, and the United States will strongly oppose it and will participate in nothing that encourages it.
While Kissinger was front and center on the world stage, his boss, Republican President Gerald Ford, was gearing up for his first election as president after inheriting the Oval Office in the fallout from the Watergate scandal. President Ford ran his campaign against his Democratic opponent, Governor Jimmy Carter, who had only a year earlier leapt from relative obscurity, a stranger to Washington who was seeking the top job in the land. In what was to be the closest presidential race in recent history, Jimmy Carter won on a platform of trust, honesty, and openness. As the year was drawing to a close, 1976 was proving to be another year of momentous happenings.